so if I start falling asleep, I apologize. So this talk is basically, it's going to go over Opsec for freedom fighters, how people who are fighting for justice and lulz can stay out of jail, because jail is for wuftpd, right? I think this is the final overview that I went with. It might actually not be accurate, but basically what I'm going to try and do is give you a brief overview, an introduction for how to perform Opsec, basically things to keep in mind. There's a bit of a methodology. It's not very well fleshed out. Most of it is basically shut the fuck up, and you just kind of have to improvise from there. Most of the talk is actually going to be spent on looking at the lessons learned from Lulzsec. So the original talk of the original title was supposed to be Opsec after Lulzsec, but it's gone on a ways from there. I'll also go over some techniques that you can use, and then I'll introduce some technology that I've developed to make it a bit easier, and then we've got a conclusion. So here's a quote from The Wire, which is basically, you've only got to fuck up once, right? Be a little late, be a little slow, just once. How you ain't never going to be late, never be slow. You can't plan for that. That's life. And this is the problem that you're facing, is as a freedom fighter, you are likely to encounter a large number of boxes, and you can never tell when one of them is going to be subject to forensic analysis, and you might get owned for that. So as an anecdote, I had a mate who used to do a lot of owning, and he got a new rootkit from someone. It was a binary replacement rootkit, so this was back in the day with Solaris. And the binary replacement rootkit was supposed to be really, really effective. And so he was quite pleased, and he installed it, he tried it out, he checked the logs, he logged in, the logs hadn't changed, so obviously it was working. So he went out and he spent the weekend owning up a fuck ton of boxes. He owned something like 2,000 over that weekend using his binary replacement rootkit. And come Monday, he checks the first box again, and suddenly he finds that he's in the logs. And what had happened was the binary replacement rootkit he was using actually just killed syslog. Right? It didn't replace it, it just did a kill -9. So if the box rebooted or someone figured out that syslog wasn't running, he was fucked. So he freaked out, and he had to go through his logs to find out 2,000 IPs and connect to all of them and try and replace them. And out of those 2,000, there were about 200 that he couldn't connect to. And when they came back online, someone had installed tripwire, and so he was unable to remove his binary replacement rootkit because it had now been tripwired in place. And about 2 weeks later, he got raided by the police. So the moral of the story is use a kernel rootkit. Okay, so you'll see a lot of these World War II posters that I've chucked in here. Fiend, mich. No one speaks German, right? No? Cool. It means the enemy is listening. Basically, what you need to keep in mind whenever you're talking is, first of all, you shouldn't be talking, and second of all, someone is going to use it against you. So, as an introduction to Opsec, what the fuck is it? It's pretty simple. Opsec in a nutshell, right? Keep your mouth shut. Just don't tell people things. Operate on a need-to-know basis. Basically, no one needs to know anything, right? Keep it to yourself. You have to guard your secrets. You don't want to be spreading them and sharing them with everyone. Like, it sounds great when you're young, but that's because you're an idiot. And it's not going to be as much fun when you end up in jail. And then another important one is basically you don't want to give stuff away to other people in a situation that will allow them to blackmail you. Basically, you don't want to give control of your actions to someone else. If you're not in control of your own actions, you are exposed and things can go badly. Did I have anything else? Nope. So yeah, key thing, don't cede control of your actions to someone else and shut the fuck up. Once again, shut the fuck up. Or something in Spanish. I love this cartoon. This is basically a guide to doing good Opsec for a particular type of criminal activity. So rather than freedom fighting, which we find fun, this is about smoking weed, which is not very fun. But basically, the guidelines from here are incredibly sound. Right? First of all, be careful. Right? Be careful, but be relaxed. Don't act like you're in danger. It'll put you in danger. And in case anyone hadn't got the message yet, shut the fuck up. Don't tell people things, right? Nothing that they don't need to know. And finally, act cautious. You need to be proactively paranoid. Paranoia doesn't work retroactively, right? So you need to assume things are going to go badly and act accordingly. Be tidy, so clean up after yourself. Don't leave things lying around unencrypted. Don't leave things in plain text, right? Don't leave your freedom-fighting equipment lying around where it can be seized and evaluated. Don't leave scripts and logs and evidence lying around. Clean up after yourself. This is a very good one, all right? So basically, when you are talking to people in any situation that can be logged, so if you're talking to people basically online where someone could be logging it, avoid being explicit and do not talk in code. Codes are gay as fuck, right? Everyone is going to know exactly what you're talking about because you're not very clever. So yeah, like in this example, like I want 2 green sweaters and 1 mushroom pizza. Right, that's pretty fucking obvious, right? You want to keep it to a level where only you and the intended recipient will understand what you're talking about. So in this example, if someone phones up and says, "Hey, it's me, can I come over?" Right? They both know why he's saying that, but for anyone else listening in, it could mean anything. It's a generic statement. So whenever you're discussing with people, keep it at that level. If they don't need to know what the fuck you're on about, they shouldn't know about it. All right? And camouflage is good. So try and hide what you're doing. Don't look like a fucking idiot. All right, are there any questions? Nope? All right, shut the fuck up. Got it. All right, so some basic methodologies. What you need to do is you need to do preparation work. Preparation work is basically putting in the plumbing. Plumbing really sucks. It's boring. It's dull to do. And if you were in a professional organization, hopefully there'd be someone else doing it for you. Unfortunately, as an independent freedom fighter, you probably do not have a large organization, and if you did, you shouldn't trust them. Do it all by yourself anyway. So again, you're basically going to have to do all of this by yourself. So my primary suggestion is before you start doing anything, create a cover identity. Basically establish someone with a Facebook page and a Twitter account and an email and an identity who is not you. And you will become that person before you do any other action. All right? So your basically your new alias, like your new handle, is Jose Gonzalez, and then after that you become like El Joserino, and then you go and you start doing your freedom fighting. That way, when El Joserino gets busted, it's Jose Gonzalez, not you. Apologies to any real Jose Gonzalez, of course. So Once you've established your cover, you need to work on your legend, which basically means the cover needs to be fleshed out. Like a name in and of itself is not very good. So you want to have this established for a while. You want to have a believable cover identity. And you want to create your aliases, your handles underneath this. So you want to make the cover basically as legitimate as you can, but without compromising yourself in the process. And the important thing is never ever contaminate. So contamination is what happens when two cover identities or two identities that need to remain unique interact with each other. It creates cross-contamination where now someone following a particular identity will be aware of the other identity and can follow both of them. You need to avoid doing that, otherwise it's not going to work, right? So definitely avoid contamination, major thing. So some other things to remember, these are the 10, everyone knows Biggie Smalls, the 10 crack commandments, obviously, right? So these are the 10, 10 freedom fighting commandments. Don't reveal your operational details. So don't tell people what you're doing or how you're doing it. People don't need to know this, right? It will come back to haunt you, and we'll see some examples of that later. Don't reveal what you're going to do. Don't tell people your plans. Right? If you tell people your plans, then they'll know what the fuck you're doing. If they know what the fuck you're doing, then you're in for a world of hurt sooner or later. Right? Once again, shut the fuck up. Right? Never trust anyone. Right? Basically, no one is going to go to jail for you. Right? There's no one you can trust if you're in the game of freedom fighting. Everyone is going to turn on you as soon as they can, and I would recommend that you do the exact same thing because it's the only rational choice. Like, no one's going to do extra jail time to keep you out of jail, right? And you would do the exact same thing in their position. You shouldn't confuse recreational activities with freedom fighting. Freedom fighting is dangerous, and recreational activities are inherently fun. What this mostly means is you should not socialize with your criminal co-conspirators, right? You should not be hanging out with the same people that you're committing crimes with. It will lead to trust and familiarity, which will mean that you'll actually start trusting them, you'll reveal too much, they'll be able to build profiles on you, and when one of them gets busted, you're going to be fucked. And it hurts to get fucked. And of course, never operate from your own house, right? That's just fucking stupid. You need to be proactively paranoid, as I said already. Paranoia does not work retroactively. Like, it doesn't help if you think afterwards, like, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't have told them my real name. You need to be wired beforehand. It's pretty critical that you actually invest in this stuff. You need to keep your personal life and your freedom fighting completely separated, right? Do not allow contamination from your online activities that are criminal to interfere with your real life, and do not allow details of your real life to contaminate and leak out into your freedom fighting online activities. Mostly, again, what this means is do not socialize with your criminal co-conspirators. Right? If you want friends, go to the pub. If you want criminal co-conspirators, hang out on IRC. Don't confuse the two. The guys at the pub will not send you to jail for fucking 10 years. Right? The guys on IRC will sell you out in a second. Right? You also want to make sure that your personal environment is contraband-free. Mostly what this comes down to is making sure that you are well encrypted, that what you have on your own personal possession is not incriminating, even if it was decrypted. So basically, from a practical point of view, this means that you need to have a base of operations which you trust, which is hosted outside of your home environment. So you would have a rented server that you would use, and that would have all of your logs and your tools and so on, and you would use that as your primary base of operations. And your home computer at that point is just a means of accessing that environment, and then from that environment you can go out and do your freedom fighting activities. Obviously, don't talk to police, ever, about anything. It is going to end very, very badly. And don't give anyone power of you or control of your actions. So once again, this is basically do not reveal too much about yourself to people. It will give them control over your activities, your actions, and if you're not in control of your own actions, you're fucked. So you're thinking, wow, this sounds like a fucking pain in the ass. This isn't very fun. Like, I started freedom fighting because it was fun to RM shit. Why would you want to do this? Well, it hurts to get fucked, right? You do not want to be on the wrong end of these sorts of things. And no one is going to go to jail for you, right? The only person that's going to look out for you is you. Don't assume that anyone else is going to be doing that. Why not? You might recognize these people. They made some mistakes. They trusted someone. Right? Your friends will betray you in a fucking second. Right? You need to be able to protect yourself against someone who is on the inside and knows what's going on. So, lessons learned from Lulzsec. These are specific instances of things that you can look at and you can go, all right, I will make an effort not to be that fucking stupid. All of this is pulled straight from the indictments. So here we have SupG, basically Jeremy Hammond. He was the guy with the strongest Opsec out of the crew. He basically used Tor for everything. He revealed only a very small amount of personal profiling information, which turned out to be sufficient to track him down. At this point, he reveals to Sabu that he'd been arrested. And then we have this line, don't tell anyone because it would compromise my identity. All right. He was doing really well up until then. But if you have to preface something with don't tell anyone because it will compromise my identity, don't even fucking tell that person. All right? This is a terrible idea. Never, ever, 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 ever do this. All right? If you think something's a bad idea, it probably is. All right? Never trust anyone. Let's see. What's this one? Oh, fuck. That's kind of hard to read. All right. So you all remember the FBI hack where the conference call that they were having got hacked and recorded? The guy who gained access to that was this dude, Doncha Carroll, someone or other, basically like some 18-year-old Irish kid. He busted into the Gmail accounts of some police, and he'd also defaced a political website of some Irish political thing, or whatever. When he was defacing the website, he used his fucking personal Facebook page to send the defacement HTML to his friend. Right? Pro tip, do not use your personal Facebook account to send defacement codes to people. Right? Honestly, like this is not very, very fucking smart. Alright, let's see. What's in this one? Here he does some incredibly bad Opsec in terms of contaminating. He has 3 online identities, which are polonium, palladium, and something, Anonymity. And even though he switches between these identities, he always connects from the same IP. So his the login ID that gets shown on IRC is the same hash every single time, regardless of which nickname he's using, which makes it very obvious. He also fucks up incredibly badly over here, where his username is his real name. Right? Yeah, like, do not do that. Like, your username should be user, right? Not fucking my first last name at my home address, come and arrest me, please. Right. Don't answer the fucking dumbass. Here, what had happened is after he'd been arrested, the police showed him IRC logs that had been taken from Sabu, and Sabu was basically, like he supplied these logs, the kid sees him, he realizes that obviously someone on the inside has been leaking the content of the IRC channels. He kind of freaks the fuck out. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he also fails massively when Sabu says, "Who is this?" And it was to the nickname Polonium, and he says, "This is Palladium." Right? So he basically contaminates and incriminates himself right off the bat. Do not contaminate. In this one, what had happened was Jeremy Hammond, SupG, was going on about his personal lifestyle choices, which includes being a freegan, which is someone who reclaims food from the dumpster to eat as an anti-capitalist movement, I guess. And basically what happened was he went on and on about how this was his lifestyle choice. As an end result, when they were identifying SupG as Hammond, they were able to use his statements about being a freegan along with his activities, which were captured from surveillance, where they said, this is a guy who was seen going into dumpsters, reclaiming and eating food. And also he'd been busted beforehand where he'd been known as a freegan. So once again, like, shut the fuck up. All right? Don't tell people about yourself. It's not a smart move. All right? Keep your personal life and freedom fighting completely separated. Any questions yet? Nope. Awesome. Let's see what happened in this one. This is genius. So, SupG had basically done previous hacking stuff where he'd been busted for that. He had broken into a white supremacist website and defaced it or something. He'd done that from his home IP account, and he'd been busted for that, and so they had his home address. I would highly recommend that when you're conducting your freedom fighting, you do not connect directly from your house. That would not be a smart thing to do, right? Again, with the Donacha dude, once he had busted into the Gmail accounts of the Irish Guard, of the police, he connected directly from his home IP address, which is not a smart thing to do, right? So when they got the Gmail logs and they were looking at the IPs, it's just like, yep, unauthorized access by an IP that leads straight back to the guy's house. I guess it was him. Right? Do not operate from your own home. One way of getting around this is to use Tor for absolutely everything that you do. That will make sure that you are not operating from your house initially. I would recommend using a separate uplink as well over a 3G connection with an anonymous SIM card that you rotate and change every month. Although that gets kind of expensive, so you're better off getting paid for your freedom fighting activities. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is just like some scary shit. So basically, once the FBI had decided that they were going after Hammond, they actually they tracked him down to his house because they knew where he lived, and then they used directional antennas to find out which part of the house he was located in. Then they found, and this was based on the Wi-Fi, so they tracked him down by finding out where the only Wi-Fi router was in the entire residence, correlated that with his room. Then they hopped on and I'm assuming he did not use WEP, but they obviously busted into his Wi-Fi and they were monitoring that because they have IP addresses, and so clearly they could see what was going on. So they were monitoring on his internal home Wi-Fi. So another recommendation is don't use Wi-Fi. Right? If you're broadcasting what the fuck you're doing outside of your house, then anyone can listen in. Even if it's initially encrypted and protected, it won't be after very long. Right? You can talk to Dave and buy a copy of Silica to find out why. But yeah, like, do not use Wi-Fi and broadcast what the fuck you're doing. They also tracked down and figured out based on his MAC address that he was using an Apple computer, and he had previously, as SubG, told Sabu that he used a MacBook. So this was another instance where he was leaking private information about how he operates. So yeah, do not leak your operational details. They were able to correlate when he was in his house from when he was online. Like basically they would have Sabu talk with him online and they'd verify that he was in the house. When he'd leave, Sabu would talk to him and he wouldn't respond, and they were able to say, therefore, the dude who goes in and out of this house correlates with the online activity of SubG, therefore, that's him. So this one, as I said, fallbacks to do not reveal your operational details. Don't tell people that you use Tor. Don't tell people that you use a MacBook. Don't tell people what the fuck you do. Shut the fuck up. All right. Some more random shit. Here we go. That as a second username, Yohoho, he had mentioned that he uses Tor all the time. And since they were able to, I just mentioned again, like Tor's always up and down. I can't watch YouTube, can't watch YouPorn, this is so gay, blah, 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 blah. Oh, hello, come and arrest me. Basically, he revealed details of his operational activities and how he kept himself safe, and they were able to use that to create circumstantial evidence that's going to be used against him later. For example, all of the traffic that was coming out of his house was going to Tor. Okay. Let's see. This is the Irish kid again. So Sabu basically said to the Irish kid, my FBI friends have given me an IP address from the Gmail logs of the account that you've hacked, and we want to know if it's from you or not. He might have phrased it a bit differently, but basically he said, do you recognize this IP address? And Donacha, the genius, says, yes, that IP address looks like the Wi-Fi I connect from. So, once again, try and avoid doing these things. It's really kind of embarrassing. Additionally, Sabu had asked this guy, what is the VPN provider that you use? Is it Perfect Privacy? And Palladium responded, yes, I use that VPN. So there were only 2 records of IP logs coming in. One was from the guy's house, and the other one was from the Perfect Privacy VPN. So here you go. He says which VPN he uses. That's in the Gmail logs. He's fucked. A quick note on VPNs. I'm going to get into that a bit later, but VPNs do not actually provide anonymity. They provide privacy. They're completely different things. Do not confuse them. So he was using a VPN service as if somehow it would provide a level of protection. And as we know, no one is going to go to jail for you. So if they were to subpoena the logs from the VPN service, they would turn the fuck over. All right? And because, as I mentioned, like basically the only IP addresses that were accessing Gmail were the guy's home address and Perfect Privacy VPN, he'd already established that those IPs belong to him. Don't reveal your operational details, right? Please. Some more. Like it's when you go through this, it's actually shocking that they lasted as long as they did, because it looks really fucking bad. What's this one about? Oh yeah, he got banned and he fucking admitted it. So this is another instance of very bad contamination. Basically, after the logs had been shown to him and he was talking to Sabu, and Sabu was like, oh my God, someone gave them logs? Why would you think that? I didn't do it. And the dude's like, no, for real, because I saw them. And then Sabu is like, who are you, who are you, who are you? And the kid is like, I do not want to associate with a handle that has been compromised. Like, that's bad for me. And then Sabu says, who are you? And he goes, oh, this is the name of the handle that has been compromised. So he was kind of on the right track, and then he failed. So once again, like, shut the fuck up. Who are you? How do you know about all this? I do not want to be associated with a compromised screen name. Then don't. Do not try and fucking associate with that compromised screen name. Pick a new identity and go with that. And then this is a pretty big warning sign when Sabu says, did they ask about me? And the response is no. So if you think about it for a minute, if the police raid a minor member of a gang and have no questions about the identity or whereabouts of the leader of the gang, that would indicate that the police are amazingly fucking dumb, or that the leader of the gang has already been turned and is acting as an informant and is no longer a priority. Right? This is a major warning sign. Right? Like if they're not actually interested in anyone else, then probably everyone else has already been busted. Right? Be fucking paranoid. Right? Here's another one. This is from some IRC logs. There's a guy called Virus. As far as I know, Virus is still safe. He has not been busted. So Virus basically gets contacted by Sabu, and he's like, why the fuck are you talking to me? Like, you haven't talked to me in a long time. I'm not really interested in talking to you. Sabu's like, no, we're friends. I love you, blah, 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 blah. But I think that you're a snitch. And Virus goes, don't start accusing me of being an informant, especially after you disappeared and then came back offering to pay me for shit. That's Fed tactics. And then your buddy, Topiary, who fucking lives in the middle of fucking nowhere that no one knows, he wasn't being doxxed, no one knows who the fuck he is, he gets owned. And Sabu's like, what? When did I do that? I didn't offer to pay you for stuff. Yeah, you fucking offered me money for docs. Only informants offer up cash for shit. You gave yourself out with that one, right? These are basically Fed tactics. These are snitch tactics. It's offering money for information. Normal freedom fighters have no fucking money, and they're not going to waste it on information. They've got a lot of time. They'll waste time for information. So that would be a red fucking warning flag. And there's a happy ending. Virus has not been arrested. Yay, Virus. All right. Paranoia fucking pays off. What's this one on about? So in this one, basically the feds explain how they go about following up on contamination and tracking down, basically doing cross-correlation between usernames. It's quite interesting. I'd recommend reading it. So he points out that when people show up and they don't actually, they show up with a new handle and no one knows who they are, they will identify themselves by talking about prior activities. Basically, they will not shut the fuck up. And as they talk about prior activities, they will be verified by other individuals talking to them about specific online interactions that they've had in the past, so people know what's going on and who they are. Don't do that, right? Also, if your special technique of changing your handle is to do /nick and then put a new one in while you're still in the same channel, that's not going to work, right? That's not very fucking elite. And they will then use that later on to cross-correlate and track that down. So you really have to be very careful about contamination. Once you create a separate identity, once you have established a new persona, you should create strong visual cues in that environment to enable you to remember that you are no longer who you think you are. No, that's fucking wrong. He says I've got 10 minutes, but that's bollocks. environment that you use should be strong visual cues that help you to realize that you're actually impersonating someone else and existing inside of a persona. So avoid contamination. Blah, 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 blah. All right, since apparently I am short on time, I'll hurry this up. Blah, 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 blah. Just basically stupid shit. Anyone recognize these? It's this genius Wormer. He got busted because he posted this pic, which was taken with his girlfriend's iPhone and still had the EXIF data, including the geotags, when you put it up on the defaced page. So they basically tracked her down, and then he was linked to her on Facebook. And so they got her from Facebook, then they got him, and he was fucked. Not by her, of course. After he got busted, he then threw up a post on Pastebin, and it is probably the world's worst fucking idea. So it says his name, who he is, what he did. He explains how he turned over all the evidence that he had on himself, and then he goes over how he basically went through the timeline and confirmed or denied various different things that he had taken part in, basically confessed. This has got a fucking choice line. So the FBI did a classic interrogation tactic. They basically demeaned him and said that he had no skills and that he wasn't very, very good. And so in order to show them up, he confessed to everything and then told them how awesome he was. In particular, he points out how it would seem to me that neither the DPS administrator nor the FBI fully understand the complexity of SQL injections. Because SQL map is fucking hard. It's got like all these command line switches, and then like you have to look at the man page and cut and paste, and that shit's hard, man. Like, it takes skill. And so once again, I'd recommend that if you do get arrested, shut the fuck up. Some quick techniques. Once again, shut the fuck up. Putting in plumbing. The problem with plumbing is it's really fucking boring. It's not exciting to do, and it's time consuming, and it kind of sucks. And you'll know it worked because nothing happens. So if you've got good plumbing, then you're safe. And if you're bad plumbing, you're going to jail. You have to put it in place first. Paranoia doesn't work retroactively. You have to basically put in the effort beforehand. So some stuff on personas. McLovin, yeah. You want to try and make them good personas, fairly believable. So the basic problem is that you are you. You stick the fuck out, and you'll be easy to track down. And when it finally comes to figuring out who you are, it'll be you that gets busted, right? So you need to be someone else, right? You want to be someone that's going to confuse the fuck out of them, all right? As you can see, he was wearing a mask. No one knows who he is. As I pointed out before, the danger that you'll be faced with when you're using a persona is contamination. Contamination can be very, very minor. It can also be like major. You need to watch the fuck out. You really need to be careful, and you have to practice. Like, it doesn't come easily. You have to practice being different people. And you want to do that in a safe environment before you go live. So you need to do a lot of practice before you actually start doing freedom fighting. You need to keep your cover identities completely isolated from each other, and you need to avoid all contact. No emails. When you get new fake phones for them, use those. Don't fucking call each other. Do not SMS. Don't register with the wrong phone number. Do not send from the wrong Twitter account. Do not log into the wrong Facebook. Like, really, don't fuck up. It's hard, and you need to have layered defense in place. Part of that comes down to you want to use technological solutions that fail safe, which means that you need to have a Tor everything set up. That's fairly easy. It's also the simplest and the least important part of Opsec. as I said, you need to have a backstop persona, your final persona that is not you. This needs to be your primary cover identity. Your primary cover identity from there is going to be used to do everything else, and then your secondary cover aliases, your handles, will be the ones that go out and actually conduct the illegal freedom-fighting activities. Watch out for profiling data. You can basically look these up. There's some various pitfalls. Practice, practice, practice. This is a good one to remember. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Right? You need to put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that you are in character and that you don't fuck things up. Another quote from The Wire. What you doing? Robert's Rules of Order says we got to have minutes for the meeting. These are the minutes. Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? Alright? Don't log things. Honestly, it is a crime to delete logs if you believe that they will be part of a criminal investigation. So do not have them to begin with. Then you don't have to delete them, and it's a lot easier. So as we say, no logs, no crime. Quick guides to staying anonymous. Profiling data, avoid it. You can look these up when the slides go online, but basically keep your nick and screen name free of information. So pick like hotcock07 or sexy chick 69, not 18-year-old male from Buenos Aires. Like, it's probably not a great one. Don't discuss where you're from. Don't talk about anything personal. Don't mention anything that can be used to positively identify you, such as gender, tattoo, piercings, or if you're in a wheelchair, for example. Don't mention your profession, your hobbies, or any involvement with activist groups, anything that you actually do that can be used to narrow down and find out who you are. Don't use any special characters. That's like all the weird shit that you people have on your fucking keyboards over here that no one else has. Basically stick to a US keyboard. That will, once again, help to avoid narrowing you down to a specific location. Don't do things anonymously and not anonymously at the same time. So if you're on an anonymous IRC chat, don't cut and paste and dump it on Facebook. That's fucking stupid. Don't post links to Facebook. Actually, just don't use Facebook. That would be my strong recommendation. But like, Facebook is going to be used to unmask you. Don't use it. Try to avoid keeping regular hours in that your hours when you're online and active can be used to locate you geographically based on the time zone that you're in. So vary those up a bit. And then don't bitch about like, oh, it sucks being up at 1 a.m. in the morning when, you know, that will once again locate you in a time zone and help to demask you. And this is a suggestion from Juliano, is don't talk about the weather, because that can be used to figure out where you are given enough data points. All of this basically comes down to the fact that now we actually have to practice a lot of good Opsec, because historically we didn't. As freedom fighters from the 90s, no one really gave a fuck. We got to do whatever we wanted. And we were the apex. We were the apex predator. So as freedom fighters in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was no one above us on the internet. We got to do whatever the fuck we wanted. And we didn't really have to put in a lot of effort to remain anonymous and undetected. These days it's worse. These days we've had to cede our position to LEO, which is law enforcement officials. Law enforcement officials have taken a new position as the apex predator, and they're cunts. And they're always listening. So, very, very briefly, in terms of technologies that you can use for Opsec, as I mentioned, VPNs provide privacy. That is, they provide an encrypted channel from your original host to your endpoint, but that is a direct line from your original host to your endpoint, and that can be tracked back very, very easily. So that level of privacy is useful for things like bypassing filters or local monitoring. So it's useful in a Wi-Fi environment. I get a cafe. It's not useful for remaining anonymous if you're conducting freedom-fighting activities, right? Tor, on the other hand, does provide anonymity. There are problems with Tor for really, really strong anonymity, but generally speaking, it has proved to be very, very robust in the face of very, very aggressive police activities trying to track down and put people in jail. If you religiously use Tor, you'll be fine, mostly. And don't make the mistake of thinking a VPN is the same thing as Tor, right? So if you use a connection to Tor and then you use a VPN after that, you're fine, because your initial connection will provide the anonymity, and then the privacy from the VPN is okay. Always do that. If, on the other hand, you use a VPN and then you use the VPN to connect to Tor, you will go to jail. All right? When you are purchasing a VPN, the only safe currency that you can use is a Bitcoin, and you have to mine them yourself. The reason for this is anything else can be traced, right? You need to be proactively paranoid. And when you purchase your VPN, purchase it over Tor. I'd recommend using email addresses like tormail.net, and tormail.org is another one. There's at least one other Tor email which allows you to use a webmail address on a Tor hidden service with no JavaScript, and that is reasonably secure. If you are trying to figure out which VPN provider you want to use, you can look at this link from Torrent Freak. I'll save you the hassle. Molvad and PRQ. PRQ is good because it was run by Anakata and Tiamo, and Anakata's in jail, so he can't snitch on you. And Tiamo's in Laos, and he has no internet. So you're basically safe. All right. This is an awesome one, fail closed. So you've got the dude who's like going on about dumping shit on Pastebin, and he forgot to enable Tor. Oh no, you are going to jail. All right. Fail closed. For that, I would recommend using these things. So one of the things I put together is these. This is a TP-Link MR11U. It's available from China only, but the similar TP-Link 3040, which doesn't have the same sort of, like basically this one's been shipped with 8 megs of flash and 64 megs of RAM. This is only 4 megs of flash and 32 megs of RAM. You can buy these from Juliano. They've been chipped and modded so that you can have Portal. Portal is the personal onion router to avoid Leo. Basically, Portal will allow you to connect to the internet over Tor only. So if you've got it enabled like this, where it's got a 3G modem, it will use the 3G uplink. The connection to the internet will be via the Ethernet, so they won't be broadcasting. And to do administration, you have to connect over the Wi-Fi, which will limit the amount of traffic, because basically you never need to do whatever. Apparently time's over. I've only got 10 slides left, so we're good. All right. Anyway, Portal. Blah, blah, blah. Personal onion router to avoid Leo. It ensures that everything is sent over to Tor. You're safe. These are the different routers that you can use with it. The MR11U, the 3040, the 3020, and the 703, which looks like this, which has also been shipped. So it's also got 64 megs of RAM and 8 megs of flash. The 3040 is quite cool because it's got an onboard battery which will last about 5 hours. So you can take it to a coffee shop and it will probably die at the same time that your laptop does, and then you're good. You can get that at torporfavor.org. From Download Portal, you can download the images to Flash. No jokes. I had to look up what por favor meant, man. You guys suck. So, in conclusion, you need to remember this, right? You can be famous, you can be a criminal, but you cannot be a famous criminal. And shut the fuck up. Are there any questions?
de preguntas.
Final words.
Bueno, muchas gracias al señor Grugq.